So I'm willing to bet most of you remember your first car. My first car was a Jeep Wrangler. It would go just about anywhere, and I beat the tar out of it trying to prove that it would. Its lack of air conditioning and fabric top left something to be desired in the hot summers and freezing winters of Oklahoma. It wasn't very comfortable, it wasn't very reliable, but it was a whole lot of fun. Another thing that it had going for it was the Jeep wave. There is an unusual camaraderie among Jeep drivers. Whenever they spot one another, a simple wave is always called for. It doesn't matter if it's an $80,000 midlife crisis customized bling mobile or a 30-year-old clunker held together with duct tape. They wave all the same, with a level of mutual recognition, as if to say, I see you. There's a somewhat similar phenomenon among boat owners, but it's a little more conditional. The wave depends on your location and the kind of boat that you have often. Reverend Peter Fredericks recounts the story of what he learned from observing this boat wave. He grew up in Florida, where his parents had always had a boat, and people had waved their friendly, polite hello. Over the years, the wave declined, though, which he attributed to more vacationers moving in and fewer locals in the area. Every summer, he would go back to visit his parents. They almost always spent time on the boat, and Peter observed the wave quotient. He writes, "It had become something of a social experiment for me, a litmus test on the health of our society in general. More waves represented happier, more generous people. Fewer waves meant more judgment, more insecurity, more aggression." And then finally, on one of these trips, it hit him. One of those revelation moments. He wasn't just observing the decline of the waves, he was part of it. In the attempt to analyze and observe, holding back, waiting to see if others would wave, he lost sight of the fact that he was also a participant in the culture. He's a boater with two very able arms, free to wave as he chooses. Generosity may start with that type of realization, remembering that we're not just observers of others, standing apart from what's happening all around us. We are part of the world, part of the communities we are in, actors on the same stage. Fredericks writes, "As much as we'd sometimes like to be standing on the sidelines, offering advice or criticism or judgment, as much as we'd sometimes like to deny our role in what's happening in front of us, we are part and parcel of it, part of the larger whole." As you heard a few times in the past month from our finance team, the theme of this year's pledge campaign has been growing deep and reaching out. Those two phrases seem to encapsulate the work of our community. We aim to deepen our sense of grounding, our spirituality, our values, and to reach out to others and the world around us. Growing deep and reaching out. It also invokes the image of a healthy tree, deeply rooted and spreading its branches. In particular, this worship service was inspired by the statement from Rabindranath Tagore, the Bengali poet. He said, "The one who plants trees knowing he will never sit under their shade has at least started to understand the meaning of life." The one who plants trees knowing he will never sit under their shade has at least started to understand the meaning of life. That's what wider scale generosity is all about, it seems. It's giving in a way that may be a little more diffuse. Giving when we may not have the immediate reward of the smile or even hear the thank you from those who benefit. Whether it's in making a financial commitment or volunteering or just offering the gift of your presence on Sunday morning, I want us to consider the wisdom of planting trees as we help build our Tapestry community. Unless you're brand new here, most of us are here because Tapestry or Unitarian Universalism more broadly has touched our hearts and given us something pretty important. We heard about some of that in the videos throughout this month. We heard about finding comfort and friendship among people with common values. We heard about raising kids in an ethical and deeply curious community. We heard about the opportunity to join with others as we build the world that we dream about. And every once in a while, a moment of inspiration or opportunity to see the sacred in a different way pops up. Now, sometimes we make the mistake of looking at our financial contribution to Tapestry as paying for these things that we have received, like we're paying for services rendered. However, the pledge campaign is not someone chasing you down with a bill for what you have experienced. I hope that you'll see your financial commitment here as not paying for what you've received, but as supporting that gift for others to receive it. When I pledge, one of the things that I feel most strongly about here is our religious education program. I don't have kids, but I know that what we offer our children and young families can make a tremendous impact that will ripple out for decades and generations even. I support Tapestry because I believe what we do in the world makes a difference, not just for me, but for everyone in this room and potentially a whole lot more people that we have not had the good fortune to meet yet. What trees are you planting for future generations? And for other people you may have not met yet? What gifts will you leave in this world, not just for Tapestry, but all over? Like any metaphor, there's a limit to this idea of planting trees. Trees are big and strong. We think of them growing deep and reaching out. But your gifts to this world, whether they're financial, emotional, spiritual, artistic, compassionate, whatever they are, they don't have to be on the scale of a mighty oak. It may be a word of kindness or a small gift of hope that reverberates for generations. My invitation to you is simply to think about the potential impact of your generosity beyond the immediate moment or the situation. Occasionally, Tapestry folks will request a copy of a reading that I've used during a service. A few weeks ago, I used a reading and had this flood of requests to have a copy of it. For different reasons, multiple people asked for it, and it seems especially worth sharing again today. You might remember this. Reverend Ken Collier writes, "I don't know where we go when we die. I do not know what a soul is, or what death is, or when or why. What I know is that a song once sung cannot be unsung. A life once lived cannot be unlived. And love once loved cannot be unloved. And so it is with whatever gifts we have to offer. There are 1,000 different reasons that drive us to generosity. They overlap with each other in our minds and in our hearts. None of those reasons is more important than the other. It's worth thinking about your own generosity motivation, though. I recently heard a story from the Reverend Erica Hewitt, who found some clarity for her own motivations. In this story, it was a Sunday afternoon at a family reunion in Chicago. There were layers of exhaustion, jet lag, and the heat of humidity of Chicago in August had worn her down. And then came the conversation with her very conservative aunt about church. Not Erica's Unitarian Universalist church, but her aunt's church. Apparently, they were doing some good work supporting people in New Orleans, rebuilding in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, and that's when it came out. The aunt says, "That city has had 2 years to clean up, and they're still asking for help," she huffed. "Tell me, Erica, why should we help them?" "They seem to think that they don't have to do anything," she continued, "except sit and wait for other people to come and help them. How long do they expect us to keep helping them?" In her fatigue of the moment and her compulsion to make peace at family reunions, Erica began to describe the political nuances of New Orleans and how cumbersome it was to get building permits and to make progress there. It was legalistic and it was woefully inadequate of a response. Only later did the inspiration come. The wisdom came, and she realized the answer that would have been right in that moment. The words for her aunt: "Because we can." Because we can. Erica writes, "For me, I can is a reflection that much of what I have I did not earn. I've received freely from the generosity and privilege of others. What's mine isn't entirely mine any more than the oxygen that flows through my lungs is mine. I wish for a portion of my resources, along with my goodwill, to reverberate through the universe, doing good in as many ways as possible." Her response reminded me of how much we all have received from this congregation that we did not earn. And to be clear, this isn't about guilt. This is about gratitude for so much. It's easy to take a lot of this stuff for granted. But it's all here because someone gave it or made it happen. The chairs that you are sitting in, which are remarkably comfortable for church chairs, were donated by Marie Ferguson, who I never had the pleasure of meeting. Our beautiful grand piano that we enjoy every Sunday was a gift of Dick and Lois Huddlestone, who fortunately I did get to meet. I don't remember how many people chipped in to buy and to renovate this building, but it was a bunch. It was a wonderfully large number of people, and I'm proud to say that I contributed to that campaign as I was able. And hopefully this isn't putting people too much on the spot. Would you raise your hand if you gave to that campaign 5 or 6 years ago? I don't care how much, but if you gave to the building, hi, people need to see this. Okay, thank you. We inherit a tremendous legacy of generosity from others. And as I was thinking about it this week, I realized how grateful I am to the decades of ministry, both ordained and lay ministry, that went on at Tapestry long before I arrived here. Reverend John Millspaugh and the Reverend Robert Jordan Ross, Tapestry's minister emeritus, each brought their wisdom and compassion and stability to this congregation. Without their ministries in the past, I don't know what congregation I would be serving. In fact, it was at a holiday party at Robert Jordan Ross's home where colleagues reminded me that Tapestry was searching for a minister. They told me I should check it out because it might be an interesting fit. I am so grateful for what they and a handful of you built here. When the super talented and very capable Nikki Renderer became the president of our board of trustees, she said to me that her main goal was just to not mess up what she had inherited from her predecessors. I sometimes feel the same way about this institution and this ministry. There's something really good going on here for the past 40 or 50 years. I'm glad to bring what I can, and I am under no illusion that this is all my doing. Most of us, not all of us, but most of us came into Tapestry as an established congregation, ready to welcome us with open arms. What a gift we have received. We continue the tradition of growing deep and reaching out with our pledge campaign this year. For those of you who have already turned in your pledge, which is a lot, thank you so much. I hear from our finance team that several were able to meet the ask of a 5% increase in pledges to meet our goals for the coming year. So 1,000 times thank you. So far, we're still missing pledges from about 22 Tapestry members. So please go to the website and make your financial commitment and avoid the task that's really unpleasant for everyone of the board calling you to track you down. I'm all about transparency with money, about everything here at Tapestry. So it's worth updating where we are right now in the pledge campaign. The board is hoping to do some very exciting stuff next year that will benefit us all, especially reducing the tremendous load of responsibility on our volunteers. What we have seen from projections for the current giving is that we're about $12,000 short of that goal once everyone has turned in their pledges. What that looks like on the ground is being short of hiring an office administrator or cutting down the huge burden that we place on our Ways and Means Committee to raise funds with special events. At this point, we have enough to function, and that's awesome. Enough is amazing. But if you feel super inspired to help Tapestry move toward more stability, reducing some of the work that lands on our volunteers, if you feel possibly like adjusting your pledge, there's still time in the next week or two. And I want to stress, we have enough. And enough is a beautiful thing. We're on the verge of thriving into a new level of stability that would be some really delicious icing on this cake. The one who plants trees, knowing they will not sit in their shade, has at least started to understand the meaning of life. I count among my many blessings the opportunity to be in the company of some fine planters of trees here at Tapestry. Amen.